you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
How are we doing out there all across this great land of ours and around the world? We're coming to you live right now. You are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dryer Report. And we're here to do what we do best, and that is to espouse what we call the conservative gospel and expose the lameness of the leftist agenda. And we're glad to have you with us tonight. A lot of stuff going on from last night. Just some really kind of quirky, weird, insane type things that are going on that just kind of, I guess, just are the trademarks that are being established in this crazy, wacky primary election cycle. It's beyond comprehension to some degree, but then again, the Gruber theorem, the stupidity of the American voter, and I guess when you cut it down that way, anything can happen, and it looks like anything may happen. We saw something last night. Bernie Sanders once again schlonged Hillary Clinton, and in a big way. But I was just informed this morning. We got some information for you that's just going to kind of knock your socks off a little bit. We'll probably talk about it in the second hour. The first hour, we have a guest coming on. If you were listening earlier in the week, we had Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media with us, or was it late last week? Was it late last week, Joe?
Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, last week. And we had a big conversation, lively, very animated conversation about Marco Rubio. Is he the conservative that would be acceptable to the establishment? And Karen is of the opinion that Marco Rubio's the guy. He's the guy that needs to be put into the White House to bring order, restore order back to the Republican Party. And, of course, Joe and I do not believe that in any way, shape, or form. So it was a lively conversation. One of the best ones we've had, actually, because we do like lively conversations. We don't demand that everybody comes on our show agrees with us. That'd be boring.
Heck no.
Yeah, we can listen to Chris Matthews.
There was a challenge thrown down.
Yeah, you can listen to Chris Matthews if you just want people that want to, you can agree with. But Joe has a friend who's going to come on tonight, and I'm going to give him an opportunity here in just a second here to talk about her and who she is. Has a very good understanding of who Marco Rubio really is. And so, Joe, why don't you fill in the listeners here as to who your guest is and what she's going to be talking about.
Oh, she's Cindy Lucas. She's from down in Marco Rubio land, where they produce all the Rubio bots, because they're just attacking all over the place down in South. No, they're not doing that. There ain't no such thing. If you want to believe, let's see, the fat man who is no longer in the race. Remember Chris Christie? He's out of the race. And so we bid fond farewells to Chris Christie and what's her name?
Carly Fiorina.
Yeah, that's it. That's maybe that's the problem she had. People just couldn't remember who she was. Although I do believe that she got hosed in the last debate, but not being allowed there. I mean, for crying, never mind. I really think I do miss Carly. She should have gotten a better run out of this. You want to talk about some of the things that came out of last night. That was one of them. Finally, we're starting to winnow this field down a little bit.
Yeah, well, I want to say this about Carly Fiorina. Out of all the people that have exited the race right now, I probably feel more for her than I do for any of the other ones.
Yeah.
She really was rather mistreated in this cycle, and I think she deserved at least more attention than than she got. I don't think she was treated fairly on some respects. Especially when you beat Chris Christie and you get relegated to the second tier. Well,
Bingo.
Chris Christie and she beat Kasich, Christie, and Jeb Bush. She beat all three of them in Iowa, and she gets relegated out of the debate. I thought, what a travesty.
Yeah,
she's a sharp woman, and I'll tell you, whoever gets elected, if they don't bring this woman into their cabinet somewhere, then they're just dumb, fat, and stupid.
Well, I don't see Bernie Sanders bringing her into his cabinet.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm going on the assumption that Bernie Sanders is not going to be the guy.
He's not going to be the guy because he's sure. I mean, he was calling for revolution last night, buddy. Revolution!
I know. I listened to his acceptance speech. And I could think of, there's two things I got the same response to Bernie Sanders' speech and Donald Trump's speech. The exact same response. I listened to Bernie Sanders talk about how everything's going to be free. And I go, how's he going to do this? I listened to Donald Trump how everything is going to be better. And I go, how's he going to do this? It was just like both of them was like, both of these guys are just talking out of their ears, And neither side has told us how they're going to do that. Well, Sanders has. He's just going to tax the hell out of everybody. He's going to take all the wealth of the rich, and it's going to make everything great. And I'm like, does this guy? He must practice Obama math. That hey, I got checks left in my checkbook, so therefore there must still be money in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, he said, I'm going to tax this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, but we're going to have this great economy, and we're going to have these $15 an hour jobs because everybody's going to make $15 an hour, and we're going to have all this. One hand, you're going to have all this free crap, but on the other hand, he says, we're going to have a great economy.
I'm listening to the count off with him. What's he saying? We're going to have free college, we're going to have free health care, and we're going to give everybody $15 an hour, but we're going to tax the businesses that are going to provide all this, and then we're going to tax all the rich by taking all their capital gains.
Oh, we're going to rebuild our infrastructure.
Yeah, and we're going to rebuild our infrastructure, which, by the way, that means has to be paid with taxpayer money. And so I'm thinking, okay, you got all these things lined up, and you're going to bite the hand that is providing all this. And you're gonna expect these people to keep their businesses here in the United States?
Absolutely, I'm staying because I think that's great. I should probably just hand over the keys to the front door to my business. There you go, Bernie. I'm American.
Well, it just knocked me crazy. I just went, wow, this is insane, absolutely insane. So. Anyway, we're going to go to our first break here, and Cindy Lucas, I think, is holding here online. I hope that's who I have on the line here, and we'll come back and we'll get started. Joe will get his interview going here with Cindy Lucas. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. We got a lot for you today. We got a lot going on. We'll be. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Other than the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, partner in crime, Joe Hakos from Troy Report. And at this point, Joe, I'm going to turn the con over to you. You have your guest, Cindy Lucas, and it's all yours.
All right, thanks. Hey, Cindy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
I'm good, trying to stay warm. If you're getting cold down there, it's not my fault. It's somebody up north of me. So just
and it's cold down here, too.
Oh, man, that's not good. We don't like that here.
No,
so, Cindy, there is one main reason why I got you on. But let me just a little background, folks. The other day, I was listening to the radio really early in the morning. So you folks in California be really, really early in the morning. And I was hearing somebody talk about Marco Rubio, and it was Cindy. Cindy's on there on the radio, and she's talking about Marco Rubio and telling folks don't be fooled by what you see. And so basically, really, the main reason I wanted to get Cindy on here because I, for one, am tired of hearing Marco Rubio was a Tea Party darling, and he's a conservative, and he is this and that and all this other stuff, and I'm like going, Yeah, I don't think so. And then Karen was on with us last week. She's one of our contributors, Cindy, and she was saying, "Yeah, Marco, he's a good guy." Blah blah blah. And I'm like going, "You don't really know Marco, Karen." No. And so Cindy.
So I mean, it really is a timeline here for him.
Okay.
I'll give you a little background. Before I became the 9/12 Tea Party coordinator, I was a member of the Republican Executive Committee. I worked, to help get Bush elected. Raised a lot of money for the local REC. Didn't probably awaken until probably the second term of the Bush administration, because I had a friend that was constantly, saying, he's a globalist, and that's beside the point. So I really got educated, but I've been fighting immigration for a long time. I'm a member of FLYMN, which is Floridians for Immigration Enforcement, and we had a lot of bills that we worked, and most of those bills, a couple of those bills were sponsored by my state legislators, Gail Harrell, who's a state legislator in the House, Will Snyder, who's no longer there, and so we really tried to get these bills through, and we just never could get them through. And a lot of that problem was because of Marco Rubio.
So this is in Florida, when Marco Rubio was in the Florida legislature.
Yes, the timeline goes back, really back all the way to then. I mean, there were 7 bills. All of those bills were enforcement bills. And basically he just, they were all kind of shoved through the committees to stall them, and so we never got them through the House. And, if you look at his statements back then, I mean, we have Rubio in 2002, he wanted, there was a Republican bill that would have required all colleges to submit the visa information of foreign students to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He squashed that bill. And then as a junior legislator, he wanted to co-sponsored an in-state tuition bill that would have included all illegal aliens. So he's got, quite the record. And I don't know if people are aware, but he did write a book. It's called 100 Innovative Ideas for Florida's Future. You can get it online. Newt Gingrich talks about him in the back as a wonderful person, Jack Kemp, Jeb Bush. And let's look at Jack Kemp. I mean, Paul Ryan, our Speaker in the House, in the U.S. House, is a Jack Kemp protege. I mean, and I've been told so many times in the last 6 months, if Marco Rubio was to become our president, he would work right alongside with Paul Ryan, and we can expect amnesty. And that's basically, their ideology. But in this book, he even talks about the curriculum in education, standards. We're going to have a world-class standard for education. And I would say that he adopted, in this book, public-private partnerships for companies to come in and sort of partner with education. He talked a lot about the global world and getting the students into this global economy through education. So I would say that he was a proponent back then of Common Core. So, I mean, everybody can read the book, and on page 17, he talks about replace Florida curriculum education standards with a world-class curriculum. And so that's the background when he was then in the Florida House.
Okay.
When he decided to run, we decided in our Tea Party that we would interview all the candidates in a private setting with a board of 7, and we had a questionnaire, a back and forth exchange. We talked a lot about the Constitution, property rights, all the issues, and this vetting that we did was from the local all the way up to the Senate. Okay. And so in 2 election cycles, we had every candidate except for 2, and that was Marco Rubio that wouldn't come in. We chased him 16 times, and a local candidate. And we went down to Miami. We tried to go to we met with him. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'll fill it out. And we didn't really want him to fill it out. We really wanted to have a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because unlike Alan West or Connie Mack or George Lemieux, who came in and sat and were taped, and we had a back and forth discussion, it seemed like Senator Rubio didn't want to do that because he didn't want to have anything on the record. And I'm not just saying that. You can go to Joyce Kaufman. She's a radio talk show host down in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale. He promised her, that he was going to enforce, strong borders and, all of this stuff with immigration. And basically he just lied to her. And I would say if you ask Sarah Blackwell, who's the lawyer who is helping with the H-1B visa, employees, that the employees at Disney that were fired, she's representing the Disney workers. She actually called Marco Rubio a liar on Breitbart Radio on Sirius Live a couple months ago, and she's not backed down at all, and there was an article in the New York Times about it. So he's got quite a credibility problem. And if you look at his donors, they're all donors from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the PACs that he's involved in. If you go to, I think it's Renew America or American for a New Economy, this is Michael Bloomberg and Murdoch and the CEO of Disney and many, many other CEOs that have put this together, and they're also funneling money into Marco Rubio.
So
yeah.
let me just back up here a minute. So when Marco Rubio was running in the primary against Bill McCollum for the Republican nomination to get on the to go to the general election for U.S. Senate, you tried to get him in then to.
Yes, we did. And we didn't know a lot of this then. I mean, I knew some of it because I was with Flyman, but not all of it. We weren't going. This wasn't an attack thing that we were doing. What we tried to do is to try to have an exchange of ideas, to talk about the Constitution, property rights, all of these things. And he, out of all the candidates, he was the only one that didn't want to answer.
So George Lemieux came in. George Lemieux came in. Connie Mack came in.
And Alan West.
And Alan West even came in. But was Alan running for Senate? He was running for Congress, right?
He was running for Congress in our district because he got gerrymandered out of the down south, which was on purpose.
Yes.
That was Boehner behind that. But to go back, I mean, we've seen Marco Rubio in a video promoting cap and trade for Florida. Breitbart had it up. We also found out right before the election in November, which was around September, before he won the Senate race, that he had appointed Harvey Rubin, who to the Climate Advisory Task Force in Miami, who sat on the board of ICLEI, the International Community of Local Environmental Initiatives. Did he know about Harvey Rubin? Did he understand what ICLEI was? Didn't seem to want to answer any of those questions. I mean, and then there's this thing called CREW. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're Citizens for Responsible and Ethics in D.C., and in 2010, they had him as one of the most corrupt politicians in the country. They oversee all of the states, and they look at all of the state legislators and the governors, and I think congressmen too. And he's on that list as being one of the corrupt ones. If you look at, it's not. This isn't something that I'm saying. I would urge everybody, if they want to find out who Marco Rubio is, to go to Numbers USA and look at his rating on immigration and look at the bills. I would also go to Open Secrets to follow the money. You can go there and look and see who the donors are. They'll even connect the dots to certain bills, and you can look at his record. I mean, it's unfortunate. Yes, he's a good speaker. He has a nice persona. Isn't it nice that he's a Latino? And, of course, we Republicans, we need a young Latino. This is nonsense. It's all nonsense. And, thank God for, we have radio now, Breitbart, who's bringing all this out. They've done their due diligence. I've sent them all my findings, and they're the only ones that are really bringing it out. I mean, I'm getting tired of listening to Mark Levin make an excuse for Rubio. Rush Limbaugh makes an excuse for Rubio. Hannity makes excuses for Rubio. They keep talking about the Gang of Eight. This is a record of him. This isn't just the Gang of Eight.
Yeah, the gang at bait is what brought it to the head for me because, well, unfortunately, I wasn't part of the early 2000s. I couldn't have done it because I wouldn't have been allowed. But that's another story. But not knowing that, and then meeting with him up here in the Panhandle, and he come around and he says all the right stuff. And he said, "No, I'm not going to be amnesty this and that," and then turns around and gets up there and Schumer and that, and it's just like, really, that's really nice, Mark. Really, that's and then I'm thinking, and then I heard you, and it's like, whoa, absolutely, I was like, why would he just do that, just arbitrarily? Well, obviously, it wasn't.
Well, I think he's an opportunist. I think he's an opportunist who wants to be a politician. Has he ever had a real job? Not that I know of. He has a good story, but he doesn't seem to have had worked in the private sector. So I would say he's a little bit of an opportunist. I mean, in 2013, he supported, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. I mean, isn't that amazing? And now he's talking about trade. He's against this. There's a lot of things that he's done besides just immigration.
Yeah.
If you want to look at the money behind him. I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. There's so much bad money. Paul Sanger, who's a very, very wealthy individual who is not pro-life, pro-homosexual marriage. He supports Marco Rubio. He gave him a ton of money, and he supports both parties. I mean, what is he doing supporting Marco Rubio? And the only thing that I can think of is because of immigration. And this is just in the last 8 months. This isn't somebody that came on a couple years ago. This is in the last 9-10 months that he's donated this money.
Sounds like a wannabe Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, we did, was last spring, I think it was last spring, we decided that our group would do what we called the Voter Project. And we did an investigative report on all the candidates. We looked at their record. If they didn't have a voting, a legislative record, we looked at their books that they have written, speeches that they may have given. We did everything. We looked behind the candidate, who were their associates, who their staffers were, their consultants. And when you look at somebody like Marco Rubio and you look at the list of people, I would say most of them came out of the McCain, Bush, Romney team. Some of them worked for think tanks that were pro-immigration. We have Alex Burgess. He worked for Romney Bush, and he was also worked for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So the people that he surrounds himself with are not people who want to secure our border or bring back our sovereignty.
And just they sound total establishment types to me. They are embedded deeply with the party, and underneath that line of people underneath that you see visibly. It's these people behind the scenes that are really holding it,
Absolutely.
Together.
Absolutely, and it is. I don't know. You obviously you listen to Sirius Radio because you must have it, and I have it. And for years, I've listened to Mike Church, who I love. He's taught me a lot about the Constitution, and I loved him. And he was the oldest. He was the first talk radio host on Patriot Radio on Sirius. Mm-hmm. And they removed him and they put Breitbart on, and Steve Bannon came on, mm-hmm. and Alex and all of the guys from Breitbart. Now, if Steve Bannon in Bloomberg, they did an article about him as the most dangerous conservative in America. Okay, and I mean, I want to quote Steve Bannon. We are fighting the global elite, one world government, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Republican Country Club. I can't remember all of it. And that's what we're fighting. And, you can go on that show and talk. You can bring up Agenda 21 because John Devonpool in England wrote that book. You know all of this. So, but I'm saying if they didn't come on, where would we go on a national radio show
to have a voice,
to talk about this?
Yeah, to have a voice. Cindy, we got to go to a break right now, so kind of hang on, and we'll be right back. So, folks, this is Joe Hakis with Cindy Lucas, John Matthews, being very quiet behind the scenes on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back after these messages.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Our water heater broke down last month. It was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Welcome back, and you're listening to the Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, my partner in crime and co-host. And we're we have on our show today Cindy Lucas, who's given us quite a rundown on the, the now preferable candidate of the Republican establishment, Marco Rubio, since Bush is flaming out. Kasich never even really got started. Okay, he won New Hampshire. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. And this guy is going to get buried from this point on. I mean, what do you want? Here's a guy that said himself that he's the best, he's the in-between of Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and yet he's going to tell us he's a conservative. And that's what we're talking about today. The narrative that has been employed here for at least the last 3 election cycles, where we have candidates getting up there telling us they're Tea Party people, they're conservatives, they're going to bring conservatism back to the Republican Party. We vote them in office, and they turn into jackasses and elephant skins. And we're just tired of it. I'm sitting here having a conversation with some people right now as Joe and Cindy are talking here, and I just can't believe for the life of me that people that I've known for so long to be such staunch conservatives haven't figured out that the narrative is a lie. And still willing to defend somebody like Rubio as a staunch conservative. I mean, you actually using adjectives like that, a staunch conservative that really has no record that I can see of that proves anything other than the fact that he's Jeb Bush 3.0. So anyway, back to you, Joe. You got the con.
Okay, hey, Cindy.
Yes.
Hey, you talked about something there at the beginning when we first started. Something about in 2002. Rubio is in the I don't know if he's House Speaker, but he's definitely in the Florida House, and there were bills put up for enforcement. And you said something about a bill to have.
I'll read it to you. It was a Republican bill that would have required all colleges to submit the visa information of foreign students to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Okay, cool. That's what I want to talk about.
And he squashed that.
Okay, here's what I want to talk about that. Wasn't it some of our friends from Saudi Arabia were on student visas, and when they...
this is several of the 9/11 hijackers.
Yes.
And they learned to fly, okay? And that's really what the bill was all about.
Ah, okay. I was just wanting to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I wonder, I just thought of this. Citizens United, David Bossie, is that his name? I watched an interview with him, and he just... they said, well, you would support Marco Rubio, and he wouldn't say. He does not like Marco Rubio. See, there are people in D.C. who get it, and we're starting to see them come out. We're starting to see that they're going to speak out. I think they've had enough, and they're not going to lie for a candidate, and they're not going to spin for a candidate, and they're not worried about having access or getting somebody, on their talk show or supporting their think tank or whatever. So I see a little bit of a window opening up here to get the truth out about these candidates and who they really are for, and we just have to keep pushing, which is the best thing. The best way to get the information out there.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to clear up is when he became the Tea Party candidate, he became the Tea Party candidate because of the New York Times. The New York Times, on their magazine section, put the cover of Marco Rubio, was on the cover, and they anointed him as the Tea Party. Now, I'll speak for myself. Nobody called me. Yeah. There were 1,000 groups back then, over 1,000 in Florida.
Yeah.
He went to a Tea Party event up here, and we handed the people the package to try to get him to get vetted. I would say the Tea Party that he went to no longer exists, and they were GOPs trying to co-opt the Tea Party, and we had a lot of that going on at that time. So who vetted him? Who talked to him?
So this is exactly where we're in Florida now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is we're at in Florida. So
I live in Martin County, which is one county up from Palm Beach, and which is right near him. Well, he's in Dade. He was in Dade at that time.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there was a Tea Party in Vero. I mean, there were Tea Parties all over the place.
There were Tea Parties.
And, I would have arguments with them, and our group would have arguments. We would say, did you vet him? Did you ask him? Well, Cindy, he's really good. He's really good. He's really good. And, you can't blame the people either. because back then there were a lot of people who were not politically savvy.
Yeah.
They didn't know.
Well, I mean, it was new to everybody, really, when you get down to it. I mean, it was a brand new thing. Everybody got together, got out there, and you would see these things go on, and you'd be like, wow. And there was absolutely minimal organization, if I could put that out there. Minimal organization.
Yeah, and they also said, they wanted to put everybody into groupthink. Well, we were all individual Tea Parties. Nobody was the boss. They still can't. They are still trying to do that.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, where is the Tea Party? Well, the Tea Party are now split into property rights groups. We have property rights groups here in Martin County that came from the Tea Party. We have people fighting this train issue that we have. We have people fighting Common Core. So, we have splintered out into all kinds of activism. And we have people working in all different things. I mean, this is a movement, and now it's no longer just, the Tea Party. It's all of the above. It encompasses everything. And I just am so disappointed that people will not do their homework. You have to do your homework, and you have to look and see and go beyond the soundbite, beyond the words. And see what's going on and understand it.
And that's the reason why I wanted to get you on, because you were down there with him at the time, at the beginning. So who better to know about it than people that were there at that time and to be able to talk about it. So that was one of the reasons. John, you said you had something you wanted to bring up?
Well, I had something here just specifically dealing with the Tea Party element. And one of the things I've been noticing over the last few years, since the inception of the Tea Party, is the fact that what we have here is we have a very, for lack of a better word, a very split ideology out there. It's like it seems like the Tea Party is made up specifically, or to a great degree, single issue elements that somehow combined, at least in the eyes of the media. They use it to kind of like, well, if you're anti-abortion, well, then you must be also a homophobe,
right?
That kind of thing. And so we get whatever these single issues then are all in the media. They're all grouped together to paint the Tea Party as one thinking machine of extreme right-wing conspiracies and extremism and all this other stuff. And that, so I'm kind of perplexed in that manner that. And I'm seeing that in this election cycle. There's been very little mention of the Tea Party per se. In terms
right. Well, did you know that Tea Party Patriots, which is probably the original, I would say the big one. Mark Meckler was involved in that. There were a lot of people involved in that. Jim and I and our group, we've stayed involved with Tea Party Patriots in the sense that we get on the conference calls every Sunday night. We listen to the legislative update. And we did participate in the endorsement process. They had 3 or 4 rounds, and they would never endorse, and they did endorse, and the winner was Ted Cruz. Now that doesn't mean that everybody in that went through the process of the vetting, of doing the round is going to support Ted Cruz. And you're right, but the issues, I would say, what's happened is. They have to find a way to really to smack us down, but they can't find us. So then they try to, like you said, we're anti-gay. Who's anti-gay? Tell me a Tea Party that said that. And what is a Tea Party? It could be a Liberty Party. It could be just a group of people getting together on a Friday night. I mean, who are the Tea Party? Nobody really knows. They can't pinpoint anybody. They can't go to one person and say, everybody that belongs to that group over there, you're all a bunch of bigots. They can't do that. They can't find us. And that is the frustration. And now what we have is this groundswell, at least I'm seeing it, of people who are waking up. They may not know all the issues, but they are waking up. And I think they're getting to realize that there's something wrong, and maybe we can go say that Donald Trump helped us along in a little bit of a way. And you want to know some background on that? What was Donald doing the last 7 years? Well, I can tell you, he was in South Florida at tea parties. He participated in the Palm Beach County Tea Party. Matter of fact, he even paid for one of those events down there. Helped pay for it because they ran out of money. So he's been around these people, and I'm not vouching for. I don't have a dog in this fight yet, but I can tell you that people ought to realize that he's been around a long time. You know, he went to that South Carolina coalition, the Tea Party coalition. He's been there 3 years in a row. And I tell people, which is with Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or any of them, they all have to walk that hallway and see all those booths lined up. And what are you see people there with property rights, Agenda 21. You'll see Edward Griffin with his book, The Creature of Jekyll Island. You see all these people lined up and have their booths set up at the Tea Party Coalition in South Carolina. And, all these candidates or whoever have to walk through the hallways and look at them all. I mean, you can't ignore. I mean, these are issues that have been out there for a long time, and now they're getting out there to the masses.
Yeah.
So,
I've got to interrupt you here because we do have to do a break here. And when we come back, what I wanted to do was make a point and get your opinion on the idea of what is the fact that we can't centralize the narrative means that we can't recapture the narrative, and that is the advantage that the left has. They have their narrative together, and we're still, in some ways, I think, trying to figure it out. And that's what allows people like Marco Rubio to continue to take advantage of the Tea Party element or the conservative ideology or whatever. And I wanted to ask you about that, if we can. I didn't mean to take over the interview here, but it's something that has just been eating at my craw for quite a while here. But we got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue here with this John Matthews along with Joe Hakos and Cindy Lucas. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Hey, we're back. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I want to remind you all that you can go out and get the copy of this archive at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. After it's over, I usually get posted within a couple hours after we're off the air. And you can listen to it again or share this with your friends. It's a very informative session that we're having today with Cindy Lucas. And I just wanted to real quick here, I wanted to ask you this, Cindy, because to me the issue here in terms of the Republican Party is that we either have lost the narrative or don't have any desire to really recapture it and take it. The left they've got their ducks in a row, they've got their talking points, and every single one of them, regardless of who they are, has memorized those points, and they'll feed them to you factory style. I was listening to the former economic advisor for Obama last night, and Bill O'Reilly was actually just painting him in a corner. How can you not acknowledge that Hillary Clinton's got a problem after losing by 20 points? And he just went into the Debbie Wasserman Schultz talking points kind of stuff, and that's what they do. On our side of the aisle, we have people still trying to figure out how to express what conservatism is. We had 3 Republicans in the debate last week, Marco Rubio being one of them, that really gave a washed-down, half-assed version of what conservatism is. Nothing, not even close to what it is. And so I'm kind of curious, do you see this uprising that you're talking about? Do you see that coming into some type of cohesive narrative that we can get this thing back on track?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because nobody knows what conservatism really is anymore. The word conservative has been hijacked by politicians. Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Mitt Romney. Look at all these people. They use that word. The word doesn't mean what it used to mean. So we're right back to where we have to sort of educate the people about what conservatism really is. I give out, you may disagree and agree, but I give out a list of Russell Kirk, who wrote a book on conservatism, and I give out the points. What is a conservative? Nobody knows what that means anymore because we don't have anybody really articulating it. I think Ted Cruz does a decent job. I think that Rand Paul has done a decent job, even though he sways more libertarian. I think he has his ideas would certainly go under the heading of conservatism, but we're not going to see that because people don't really. Look at the people that call themselves conservative that are on the radio, and I just go, really? I just don't know what it means anymore. I mean, I know what it means, but people don't understand that. The message is so bad. I think at this election, we shouldn't even waste our time. What we should be talking about is the American worker. And what we also should be talking about is jobs, the economy, but the American worker. You know why, in my opinion, why Trump is resonating? Because if you listen to that speech when he went to Michigan is decimated. I mean, Ford now is going to be sent to Mexico. They're going to have all their cars made in Mexico now. They're sending their plant over there. He's talking to people who understand. And I think if the Republicans were smart, they would find a message that's going to talk about what the middle class care about, and they would talk about the American worker and the jobs. But they're not going to do it because they're all corporatists. They're all owned and bought by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And the donors are dictating what they want. We're second-class citizens in a way.
I'm starting to believe, and I've held this belief. I'm beyond starting to believe. I've held this belief for quite a while now that the Republican Party today doesn't really even want to govern.
No, they just want to go along. We're all one big party, the Democrats included. Look, the Democrats have their very, very far left. Yeah, but if you look at the bills and you follow the money, you'll see it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, when Donald Trump gives to both parties, what do you need to... I mean, he gives to Nancy Pelosi and he gave to, Paul Ryan, whatever. It's the same thing.
I agree with you on that. That's our downfall here. If we get somebody like a Trump, like you were just mentioning, nobody knows what conservative. That's something we've been drilling home here. We've been trying our best here. This is what conservatism means, not what it looks like. It's not like Bernie Sanders. Democratic socialism looks like Finland. And we say, conservatism looks like this. It's not. No. What is it? What does it entail? What does it consist of? You can't describe something to me if you can't even define what makes it up. And
I would say, though, everybody, not everybody is going to agree with Russell Kirk, but he did go to the White House with Ronald Reagan, and I think he was there maybe 6-7 months and got discouraged. Barry Goldwater. You go back and read all those people. I mean, they would be people that I would aspire to. I mean, they were people who were really out there in the beginning fighting for the fight. But we have now. Look, we have people on the radio that call themselves conservatives, and then they turn around and they're telling us that we need to support this person because this person's better than the other person. But I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to tell you, I'm at that point now where I would rather sit out this election if I have to vote for another person that's just going to give me the same thing that the left gives me. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm just really glad that you brought out Russell Kirk because we talked about his 10 principles of conservatism.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And we did that just a few weeks ago. So I guess those like minds are just thinking together once again. So
it's terrific, isn't it? And doesn't that open up your mind? I mean, I really am. I wish I could get more and more people. I used to give it out at my meetings all the time, and I send it out periodically. I try to really push people to really look a little deeper and think a little, read different things. But so many people are just listening to Fox or they're listening to talk radio.
Yeah.
Well, I today, believe it or not, up until just a couple of weeks ago, or just till today, actually, people like Rush Limbaugh were just talking about the Trump phenomenon. And it's not that they were endorsing him or anything, but they're out there talking about, how everybody, I hear the same thing. Oh, Trump has done so much by bringing the conversation to this and talking about this. I'm like, so what? I mean, it's great that it's happened, but, when you get down to the solutions and you start talking about how you're going to resolve this stuff, nobody's giving that type of answer. And that's because nobody really knows what a conservative, how would Barry Goldwater respond to some of this stuff, that kind of stuff. And that's not hobby. How would William F. Buckley talk about this? And then National Review, his magazine's out there going off on the deep end. Well, today Rush Limbaugh is not endorsing Rubio, but telling everybody that he is really a conservative.
I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. I can't listen to him I stopped listening to him a long time ago, and I was I remember the first time I listened to Rush, I was painting my house in New Jersey, and he arrived at WABC Talk Radio. I can't do it anymore because he's part of the reason that we're here. I applaud those guys on Breitbart, I'll tell you. I really do. Maybe they have an agenda. I don't know what it is.
Well, the agenda is just like every other pundit out there that's making $30 million a year, advertisers.
Yeah, well, that may be their agenda, but at least they're bringing the people on and they're having a discussion, and they're getting the truth out there. Rush has never once, and let me tell you, we FedExed packages to him because we were fighting the 750 regional plan here, and he lives in Palm Beach County. He just never got involved in any of the issues, ever. Yeah. I mean, when was the last, can you think of when he actually spoke about an issue?
Probably not. So, Cindy, we're coming up at the top of the hour, so we're going to have to get this thing closed up. How about, can you tell some folks how they can get some information about, that your organization, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Okay, you can go to www.m like Mary 912 T like Tom C like committee.com, m912tc.com, and that's our website. And it's the Martin 912 Tea Party Committee. We meet every 2 weeks. We're very active. We're actually, we get on a lot of calls. We're working very hard in the field, trying to wake everybody up and do what you're doing, talking about conservatism and what it really is.
And you got places out there where you can sign up for email and get
yes, if you go there, you can get on our email list, and we'll send a blast out. It'll come in under committee in your subject box, or sometimes it'll just come under M912TC with my name or Jim McGovern. We work together on this, and
Very good. So, Cindy, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you for allowing me to come on. It was really informative.
Very good. Thank you so much,
Cindy.
Thank
we'll
you.
talk
Bye-bye.
to you later. Okay, guys, it's time for the Edwards Notebook. We're at the top of the hour here. And then we got to pay some bills, and we'll be back. Believe it or not, Karen Sigmund's going to come on the second hour, and we'll see what she has to say about what it is we just talked about. So strap yourselves in, and it should be a wild ride. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
For years.
years, various Muslim armies have been foolishly built or rebuilt at U.S. taxpayer expense. Remember the Iraqi army that was supposedly trained and equipped by U.S. military personnel? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. When the ISIS Muslim terrorists went on their rampage throughout Iraq, the Iraqi soldiers trained by U.S. military personnel took off running like scared little rabbits. In Afghanistan, Muslim personnel trained by U.S. instructors have proven to be nothing more than well-trained but useless soldiers in the fight against the Muslim enemies of liberty. At one time or another, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Yemen, even Sudan have either directly or indirectly benefited from U.S. military know-how and or equipment. With the exception of the brave Kurdish warriors, Muslim nations have proven to be a waste of U.S. time and taxpayer money with no worthwhile return on the investment. In fact, the idea of training Muslims to fight other Muslims is one of monumental stupidity, with the only exception being the pro-Western Kurds. Other than the Kurds, Muslims have no desire to get along with the infidels. Their long-term goal is to convert them, enslave them, rape them, or kill them. Wake up, America. I'm Ron Edwards.
Catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Vying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And we are back, and you are indeed listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and I don't know about you, that was a very informative, very down-to-earth, informative conversation on the status or the standing of Marco Rubio within the definition or the confines of conservatism.
Well,
and I think one thing that has just become obvious to me, just so obvious, it's the elephant in the room, if we can use that phrase, is the fact that we have so many out there brandishing the name conservatism and the label and espousing the values of conservatism. And I think, first of all, the first thing that maybe somebody should do when they say they're conservative is perhaps read the Constitution. Secondly, maybe, hey, when's the last time anybody in the Republican Party has looked at the Republican platform? I mean, if you looked at the Republican platform and then lay that against what we're hearing from these candidates, and even, I'm going to say this, even Ted Cruz has some issues here with me, but he's at least the closest and at least conversing and carrying a conservative dialect, and I think in a lot of cases matching the actions. I believe it was yesterday, the day before, he stood up and was the one that blocked another nomination. Obama was trying to get another nomination someplace, a judge or something, and he was instrumental in blocking that. And his basic reasoning was, I'm not giving Obama anything anymore. I'm not giving him anything. I mean, the guy's got less than a year in office, and we're still giving him stuff. And compare that to somebody like Paul Ryan, who's still trying to convince us that because Obama's in the White House, we still have to compromise. I'm like, well, at what point do you stop? At what point do you take a stand and say, hey, no more, no more? I thought it was Mitch McConnell's God-given mission to stop Barack Obama, and he's done nothing to do that. And yet he's out there still trying to tell us he's a conservative. I mean, come on, give me a break, So I had a very good interview, Joe. I'm really glad you found this girl. We got to have her back. I like her.
Well, it's from the point of view of someone that's in Florida. Who best to know the guys? Some people down here from Florida, from the beginning of this guy's going up the ladder to the top, so to speak. It'd be like me telling you, you guys out in California and telling me about somebody out there. I don't know what you guys got going on out there until they hit a national stage, and then it's like, okay, then how do you find out about it? And that was the idea behind it all, anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, what we're going to do, as Joe was carrying on dialogue with Cindy, I was sitting here in a chat, or not a chat, but on Facebook chat with Karen Sigmund, our senior conservative panel member, who was a very staunch supporter of Rubio. And we had quite a dialogue going on here. I had asked her to listen in, and she initially told me, no, I already did that last week, and apparently you guys don't understand what I'm saying, so I'm not really interested in reiterating it. But as the conversation went on, she goes, well, I don't know, maybe I should come on. I said, okay, that's what the invitation was for. So she's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes, and I have no idea at what level of decibel she's going to be speaking, but that's what this show is about. I really believe if we don't have these honest dialogues, whether we agree or disagree, and we don't have the dialogues, then we're just spinning, we're chasing our tails. You find the truth through discussion and dialogue.
Well, we're no better than those that don't even bother to try. Then. And I am a firm believer. I really believe this. I joke about it. I say, okay, well, everybody has the right to be wrong. But I really believe that is the crux of what we are as Americans, that we have the right to believe what we want to believe for whatever reason we want to believe it. And now that doesn't make it right, but it doesn't mean that just because of that, in the end, in my opinion, we're all going to stand before our Creator, and we'll find out who was right and who was wrong. Okay, so, but until that time, outside of divine revelation, I don't know about any of you out there, but I can tell you one thing in my life, I haven't had the angelic host to show up at the foot of my bed
and tell me this is truth, and this is who we want you to vote for, by the way. It hasn't happened to me yet. Now, I'm sure the Democrats probably think that's happened, but I would, that would be that angel disguised in light.
That'd just be Bill drooling over your shoes or something.
Yeah, so I'm very, very into open dialogues and talking with people that I just adamantly disagree with, and as long as the conversations don't get personal, I'm cool with anything that's being said. And so we're going to give Karen another opportunity to tell us what Marco Rubio has done that brands him as a conservative. She gave me a short list, and I'm going to let her expound on it and let her talk. And and then we'll offer our counter views. That's what we do. That's what the Conservative Syndicate is about. We defend conservatism. We're biased, but I just really believe that there's just too many out there that have just lost sight of what it means to be a conservative. And if you don't know what it means, how can you actually, honestly take a position and say this candidate is better than this one? How can we have people like Donald Trump trumping their opponents, and nobody even knows what this guy's voting record has been since he's been alive?
Yeah, well, I just go back. What's the title of our show again, John?
I'm sorry?
What's the title of our show again?
The time of our show here?
Title.
Oh, the Conservative Syndicate. That's right.
Conservative, not the milk toast Republican, dry, almost communistic Democrat syndicate.
Yeah.
It's the Conservative Syndicate.
We're not the jackass and elephant skins election committee. We're here to talk about what it is that made this country great, on what it was established, and why, if we don't keep it, what we're going to end up with is wild man, crazy man, Uncle Joe, Bernie Sanders running the show. God help us. So,
yeah.
It's our short segment. We got to go to break. When we come back, we'll continue here at the Conservative Syndicate. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
And we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos from Dry Report, and of course our senior panel member, Karen Sigmund, Conservative Syndicate panel member, Karen Sigmund, who, I guess, Karen, you took the day off today to write, and instead you got suckered into coming back on the show.
Love you, Karen. Love you. I love you.
Love you too.
Okay.
Well, let's start out this way, Karen. What are you spending your time writing?
Well, I did. You're right. I did take the day off to write. But I have yet to actually write anything. I've just gotten caught up in so much. I'd planned to do this today and had not expected last night's fallout to be as it was. And so I'm more dealing with that than moving forward on anything that I had wanted to do. But I am writing my Rubio endorsement. I'm writing my Trump anti-endorsement. And then I actually, as a function of the conversation that we had last week on the subject of conservatism, I've been writing that up. And I've had so many thoughts about it. They haven't quite gelled to where I'm perfectly comfortable with them yet. But the issue of conservative, I guess one of the things that I came down to was, in my understanding of sorry, I've just jumped right in. It's been that kind of a day. Anyway, what have I written? Not much. How about you?
I went to work today.
Did you?
Sorry. I knew I was going to have Cindy on. I knew it was going to be about, and then I knew how you felt about it, and so. This wasn't directed to you, Karen. This is for everybody else that's out there listening, and you can take with it what you want. That was the idea.
Yep.
Yeah, we're sitting here at this point. The thing that came out of our conversation last week, of course, was that I think we can all agree to a great extent that the ideas and the ideology of conservatism is lost. It's out there, but there's very few people that really want to take the time to understand what a conservative actually bases government on. When we talk about policies and agendas and everything else, what is the driving force that should shape policies and agendas? And so many people do not understand it because the narrative that's being presented today on both sides of the aisle has very little to do with what they're basing their agendas and the policies on, more about it's a populist type of thinking where, okay, let's find out what the biggest voting bloc wants, and then, or let's get together with several smaller voting blocs and find out what they want. And then let's figure out as people elected into a government position can give that to them. And in doing that, we then begin to use, or they begin to use these, the narrative and redefinition and deconstructionism and all these things that are being employed to present a package that is not anything close to what people are saying they really want. But because a certain part of it appeals to them, they grab onto it. We were talking with Cindy last hour about this idea that the Tea Party movement, the biggest problem the Tea Party movement has is that there is really no centralized narrative as to what it is we stand for. We have factions out there. We have people that, I'm for this issue and or I'm for that issue, that kind of thing. But when you actually get into, okay, define what it is we believe in, I'm not finding too many people that can actually say that. Even if they just say, if we say limited government, okay, in the debate last week, Marco Rubio used that. I think he came the closest to actually trying to describe what conservatism looks like, but I don't think he or the other candidates did a very good job of explaining what it actually is. And so you use the word limited government. What does that mean? In the eyes of today, a lot of it is it's not removing government from our lives. It's rebranding something and presenting it in a different package. That is my issue with these people that are telling us they're conservatives. And you say, okay, let's repeal Obamacare and replace it. I'm like, no, why don't you repeal it and then stay away from it? See, that's where I'm coming from because conservatism is government should have extremely limited access to the private sector and free enterprise. And what bigger private sector free enterprise entity is there out there but healthcare? But because we get into this narrative of, there's so many people that don't have health insurance. I understand the compassion of that. I understand all that. I understand the feelings behind it. But that does not legitimize putting government into a position of saying, so we'll figure out how to fix it for you. Does that make sense, Karen?
Well,
and that's my argument. It isn't that they, people are saying, I got a different way of doing it. It's like the different way of doing it from a conservative perspective is that you keep your nose out of it and don't get involved in it.
I agree with the last bit, but let's go back to the beginning part. I was going to say that I know you'll be shocked at this, but I disagree with what you said in the beginning about conservatism being lost. But where do you want me? Let me talk about Obamacare first.
Okay.
Because it is a perfect example of exactly the different views of, yes, conservatives, the left versus the right. The left sees, well, one way to think about it is the left sees a problem and then government is the solution, right? That's how the left sold us on Obamacare. Here's the problem, 35 million without health care. Here's the solution, government is going to be the answer, which, of course, we know wasn't, in fact, what happened. They said their thinking is, we want to get into your lives. We want to do everything that we can to remove every kind of decision-making that you have. This is one way of doing it. What problem? It's the Jeopardy approach to politics. Here's the answer, Obamacare. What's the question? 35 million people aren't covered. All right, here we go. We're all set, right? That's the left. They have their solution to everything is control, and they go in search of the question that they can answer, right?
Right.
But the right is the opposite. There is a real issue. The healthcare situation in this country was, before Obamacare, was a disaster. How would it work better? One thing government can do is help open the markets. One thing government can do is stop, is increase portability. One thing government can do is try to erase states' lines for insurance. There are things government can do, but most of what government can do is help move the free market along. So yes, most candidates, when they say repeal and replace, that makes my skin crawl just as much as yours, because it sounds like we are going to come up with a better omnibus juggernaut control mechanism for getting in your lives that's just going to be different from theirs. We don't want that. And those words, repeal and replace, is horrible to me. Mm-hmm. I would say the candidates who I favor have never uttered those words because we don't think that way. And this is one of those arenas where having the left moderate our debates is so bizarre because they come up with problems. What are you going to do about drug addiction? What are you going to do about healthcare? What are you going to do about gay marriage? What are you going to do about, what are you going to do about, what are you going to do about? And 99% of the right's answers are, this is not a problem where the federal government should get involved. Yes, Rubio's answer was limited government. Yes, it was shorthand because he had just, there's never enough time. And one of the things people always yell at Marco Rubio about is he talks so fast, it must be canned, he must have rehearsed it, and he tries to spit it out before he forgets what he wants to say. No, it was a complicated question. He answered it very pithily, and I'm sure under other circumstances he would go at greater length. Yes, limited government has to be part of it, and I do think at another point in his answer, he said we need to devolve power from the federal government, give more to the states, which is also part of the right answer.
Okay, and I agree. I agree with that.
Out of our lives, we certainly need the federal government out, and we need to allow the states to have greater rights. Didn't we talk about this before? Repeal the 17th Amendment?
Yeah, and now I concede your point there, Karen. And like I said, out of the three responses, Trump, Rubio, and Kasich, Rubio came the closest to actually trying to put it in, to visualize it. This is kind of what it looks like, kind of thing. But here's the thing. You made a very good point here.
It happens.
If the Constitution is, and we know that the federal government, by the Constitution, under the Constitution, has some jurisdiction in interstate commerce. And so the federal government could come to the states and say, you guys really should open your borders and allow interstate selling of insurance. It would be more competitive, and that would allow for the prices to be more manipulated and low supply and demand, standard economics. And a position like that, I find completely accurate, and I would stand behind that 100%. But what we have here, that's not what we have. What we have is the federal government saying, okay, the states, we're going to do this. Since the states, because it really comes back down to the states are supposed to have the right to decide whether they want to do that or not.
That is very true.
Okay,
and
now
it should be up to the states. Yep.
Okay, now given the fact here, let me finish my point, Joe, and I'll give you the mic here.
No.
The fact being that this is the fact. Instead of doing that, what was one of the major arguments from Obamacare from the left? Pelosi. The federal government controls interstate commerce. Okay, so this is what the federal government comes in and does and says, okay, the states we're asking you to, but you're not responding to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement a federal program that will do away with your state rights to choose whether or not you want interstate commerce. And in doing that, we will now establish the regulations. We will now establish the pricing. And so the Republicans come along and say, well, we can do it better. See, that's where they lose me. It's like, we can do it better. We can give grants. We can do this. No, why don't you just quit?
No, I haven't heard anybody say grants.
Oh, no, wasn't that one of the things they were saying, would give the states grants and block grants, and then they would use that money to offset the costs?
I have not heard that. I didn't know that they were
that's the Republican plan.
On anything.
That's the Republican plan.
If you two would remember, this is the conversation that was held right up until Christmas Eve 2008, when they decided to ram it through Congress, the Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act was passed Christmas Eve 2008, if you recall. And this conversation we're having right now had been discussed. Everything you said, portability, block grants to the states, all that stuff was discussed up to then. And then Barack Obama and his friends, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of the communists said, screw you, Republicans, we're passing this through even at Christmas Eve.
Yeah, but
so keep that in mind. This was all discussed.
The Republican plan,
yes,
and I think...
You know how many Republicans voted for Obamacare? You know how many sold out?
Zero.
Granted, Karen, I concede. I concede your point. I'm not debating your point. I think your point is valid. I think it's accurate. What I'm saying is that when we talk about conservatism, the conservative would say, you know what? The government needs to approach the states and give them incentives for opening up the borders and allowing interstate commerce, but then stay the hell out of everything else.
I completely agree.
Okay, so that's where I'm at, and I'm not seeing that.
I don't even know about incentives, but a choice in some way or another. However you want to do it, this is your choice. Which, of course, Obamacare pretended to do. Each state can or doesn't have to set up their own exchange, right? I mean, it's unbelievable, the sleight of hand. It's so disgusting. I had forgotten it was Christmas Eve. I had forgotten that part. It was all of that. Do you remember the Cornhusker kickback and the promise to whoever that congressman was that?
Yeah. Okay, I've got to interrupt you here. We got to run our commercials here. We're at the bottom of the hour.
You and your breaks all the time.
Well, you need time to catch your breath. I know I need time to catch my breath. So it's time for dryer sheets, and we'll be right back, guys. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Oh, humans. Time to open the brain and remove all that static cling. It's time to insert a dryer sheet. Well, 2016 is upon us, and America is in full-blown presidential election mode. And there is one thing that the media says is different this time around, that being Donald Trump. But is he really different? The billionaire real estate mogul from New York City, they say, is an outsider, not a politician. But is that really an apt description of the mouth that is Warren? I think not. While Donald Trump might not have been elected to public office, he certainly knows what it takes to be in public office. You don't just vote, you buy your public official, which he has stated quite proudly over and over at his overbooked campaign events. The mouth of New York City has gleefully told us of his exploits of being able to donate to political campaigns. He tells America that it's all part of doing business. Well, that may be, but it is who he has bought favors from that should be a point of contention with the base of the Republican Party, of which he is trying to garner the presidential nomination from during this primary election season. He has donated to such conservative Republican stalwarts like Hillary Clinton, Harry Reid in Nevada, Charlie Rangel of New York. And when that becomes too much effort, the Donald buys a committee such as the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Oh, wait, did I say conservative causes and candidates? Oh, I'm sorry, but my memory serves me correctly. None of these great people and causes are even close to being conservatives. That is strange. Wow, to hear the New York City mouth now, you think he's been on the side of the Republican base for decades, when in reality, he's been actively fighting against Republican base for years. Makes one wonder what has changed. Has the base of the Republican Party changed? Does it believe that making deals with the likes of Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Charles Schumer is the way to make America great again?
Well, I think that I'm going to be able to get along with Pelosi. I think I'm going to be able to. I've always had a good relationship with Nancy Pelosi. I've never had a problem. Reid's going to be gone. I always had a decent relationship with Reid, although lately, obviously, I haven't been dealing with him, so he'll actually use my name as the ultimate, as the ultimate of the billionaires in terms of, people you don't want. But I always had a great relationship with Harry Reid. And frankly, if I weren't running for office, I'd be able to deal with her. I'd be able to deal with Reid. I'd be able to deal with anybody. But I think I'd be able to get along very well with Nancy Pelosi and just about everybody. Hey, look, I think I'll be able to get along well with Schumer, Chuck Schumer. I was always very good with Schumer. I was close to Schumer in many ways.
I don't think so. While in 2010, 2012, and 2014, Republicans were overwhelmingly elected to go to their respective seats of office, many replacing Democratic officials, Donald Trump was buying influence and working against the base of the Republican Party. It would seem that the Trump money failed for the most part, as Republicans gained more legislative seats than in any time in modern history. Yet, there are those, despite claiming to be of the conservative persuasion, are full-throatedly supporting the mouth because he can win. The man has made this election about himself. Every twist and turn of his campaign is about him. He boycotts a debate because he said he was treated unfairly. He is going to get Mexico to pay for a border wall. He is going to make the Chinese trade fairly with America. Me. Well, folks, listen up. This election isn't about Donald Trump or any of the candidates running for the presidency. This is about the people of Iowa, the people of New Hampshire. Most importantly, it's about you and me and your neighbor down the street and next door. This election is about all the people of the United States making deals, buying political hacks, and whining when some media type offends you, and then running down the street to use our nation's military veterans as props is not leadership. We have a self-absorbed narcissist in the White House now. Each and every day, I've heard conservative base of the Republican Party scream from the mountaintop that this nation is without leadership. Well, putting another self-absorbed narcissist named Donald Trump in the White House will not provide the leadership this nation so desperately desires. Are we so inept in reasoning that we will allow a man who has made no secret about who he is enter the White House and be allowed to operate the office of president in the same fashion as Barack Obama? But that would be okay because he has an R after his name? We can do better than this, America. We have to if we truly are to make America great again. Well, this dryer sheet is used up. Till next time, stay static free.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
We're back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and I am your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and we have with us our senior conservative panel member, Karen Sigmund, and Karen. I'm sorry, Joe. You got to. Oh, Joe, I was going to give you the mic. Did you have some comments you wanted to make?
She's the most senior here. Yes, that's true. That is very true. Senior.
Yeah.
Hey. Let's be careful tossing that one around, shall we?
but we'll adhere to the idea here of, because we know how it is. She's not the senior in age, okay? She's just a senior member here.
Just intellect.
Yeah, we want to clear that out because Karen is far, far, far away from joining that special place in hell that Madeleine Albright tells us exists for women who don't help themselves. So Albright will find that place long before anybody else. That's for sure.
Unbelievable.
Okay, back to our conversation here. Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add to the Obamacare thing? We were talking about the difference between the federal government exercising whatever authority they have.
Karen said something about if someone would have said she wouldn't like somebody if they'd have said repeal and replace, it just sends chills up her spine or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember a certain guy from Florida told me that too.
Yeah. Well,
saying. It's just anecdotal. It's there's no witnesses. I didn't have a recorder. Sorry, but it happened. It's okay. It's all right. I still love you.
Well, some of the examples here we're talking, and I'm taking from your article that you sent me, Karen, on Marco Rubio, the 5 accomplishments that he did here. And I'm using this. I'm not using this at this point. I'm not here to attack Marco Rubio at this point. Okay, and I'm not trying to just.
He's a robot. He's a robot. He's a robot. So there's the ass hattery for 500.
Yeah. Yep. I would say I would have to grant you that 500 right there.
Yeah, I'm not really here to attack or to try to destroy or anything else. I consider what I do vetting. That's the term. That's a politically correct term here. Is I'm vetting the candidates, and I have my own issues with the guy I like. I happen to like Ted Cruz, but I have some issues with him too. And one of them actually is the same I have with Rubio, and that is a lack of experience and time. And 2, sitting senators. That's my beef. My big beef is these guys shouldn't even be running because they're already sitting senators. I think that destroys the balance in the Senate and the House when people just all of a sudden, hey, I was elected to do a job here, but I'm going to give it up and try to do something else, because then you open it up for the enemy to be able to come in and do something, take that majority away or whatever. But that's another discussion for another time. But I'm looking here at Marco Rubio's idea for tax reform. And I'm thinking, okay, this is another example. And every one of these people, and Cruz included, have, no, except Cruz, I think, because he says abolish the IRS, which is my position. But the other people would be like, well, we need to do this. Let me simplify it. Who was it? Oh, Ben Carson, 10%. Everybody pays 10%. Okay, and so what we have is we have the IRS out there trying to collect 10% from everybody. And whereas the federal government, really, there was never any established authority for federal government to tax at any level at any time. And when the framers were putting this thing together, we know that this country went almost 100 years without any taxation other than voluntary taxation that was given by the states. There was the provision was that the states could pay taxes, but they didn't have to. Now, Lincoln comes along and says, well, we need to rebuild the infrastructure because of the Civil War, and so we're going to do something temporary here. We're going to tax everybody so that we can rebuild our infrastructure. Great idea. But the government has always proven, give them too much and they'll never want to let it go. So we end up, 1912? We end up with the IRS. And now we have this big battle as to what the tax rates should be. Well, the IRS needs to be abolished because the federal government never had that authority to establish it in the first place. And so why are we talking about different tax rates and closing the loopholes and all this, that, and the other, when the fact remains it shouldn't have been there in the first place, and it needs to be done away with. Now, of course, we're in that place right now where we can't just say nobody has to pay any taxes anymore. We can't do that. But we could say flat payroll tax or a value-added tax or whatever they come up with and say, and then now we don't need the IRS anymore. Now, what do? We've cut spending. We don't have to worry about fighting over this in a budget anymore. That, to me, is conservatism, not trying to figure out how to rework something that has already proven to not really work. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, so when a candidate says to me, this is my idea for tax reform, and all you're doing is just repackaging it, then that is not conservatism to me. And that's why I take exception to it. Your response?
What? Say that last sentence again?
I said, that's why I take exception to a candidate telling me we need to reform the tax system, but just basically says we want to change rates or we want to lower the tax, we want to broaden the tax base, we want to give more breaks to businesses, when we should just be saying, let's just charge a flat tax on everything that's being earned in some form, whatever form they come up with, and just say, this is it. This is how, and then we live within our means. There's conservatism for you.
Well, to a couple of things.
Okay.
Most of them, and over the last many election cycles, have come up with flat tax, fair tax, no tax, whoever says I want to abolish the IRS is certainly not the first one to say so, nor will he be the last.
Al Capone wanted it.
What? Right. I would wonder,
Al
I would ask them what I would like to ask Trump. How? What's your plan for actually in the reality of abolishing the IRS? Because that sounds all well and good. But let me hark back to why I initially disagreed with you on the notion of conservatism. I think conservatism as an ideology includes, and I was telling you this earlier, and I think I said this last week, it includes the premise that we're dealing with the real world here, and it is just as non-utopian as the left is utopian. I don't see and others may see it differently. I see conservatism as being the opposite of utopian. I think there are goals and ideals that we have. Eliminate the IRS. Get rid of the tax code altogether. Have everybody fill out one form, X percent, and we're done, and boom, that's the end. Utter complete free markets. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of the other thing. Pure conservatism, in that sense, is an ideological ideal that true conservatives recognize to be only that, only an ideal, exactly as true Christians recognize that living a sin-free life, while an excellent goal, is an impossible ideal. That doesn't mean you throw it away. It does, and this is one thing about Christianity that I've always found fascinating, and one reason I think Christians and those of us on the right, why it goes together. I always thought, until recently, that there is a recognition of something as an ideal to be striven for, at the same time as an understanding that you will never meet it. Does that mean, as the left says, oh, this guy calls himself a Christian but had an affair with somebody, blah, oh, what a terrible person, what a hypocrite. To me, that's not hypocrisy. That's humanity. And to me, a conservative in the realm of politics, as opposed to the realm of talk radio, as opposed to the realm of television pundit, as opposed to the realm of an author on various ideals, a conservative in the political arena recognizes that these ideals are there to pull us in a certain direction and to be striven towards, but can never, ever, in the real world, be attained, because it doesn't work like that. Humans don't work like that, and certainly nor does a system of government that has 3 different branches of power, that has various terms and cycles and pressures on it, that has various kinds of checks and balances in order specifically so that one ideology does not seize the reins unfettered and unchecked from any other. To me, a real conservative recognizes exactly that and knows that while he or she may see the goal as some pure abolish this, abolish that, abolish the other thing, free markets, limited government, blah, 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 that the reality of governance is such that it is literally unattainable. And all we can do is strive to reach it. We can do our best to reach it. And to me, the ideal candidate will do his or her best to reach it, even acknowledging the impossibility of achieving what you said in the beginning as pure conservative goals. To me, the real conservative knows, as the real Christian knows, a sin-free life is not possible but a good goal. A purely conservative government is desirable but equally unattainable. That is my thesis right there.
That's very well put. And the only thing I could offer in response to that is that the reality that you talk about is a reality that has been created on the very premise of what you just said. Well, we can't obtain this, so let's step back. Let's become a little lax on it. Let's be, I'm all for the idea of compassion. When we talk about government, a lot of it is being driven by this idea of compassion. We have the impoverished, we have the disabled, we have the veterans that are having issues, and this, that, and the other. And so the government feels that it's their place to step in and do something about that under the banner of compassion. And that is all well and well said and done. And I honor the intent. The intent is never what I argue about. It's how that intent manifests. And what we see here is this idea of reality. Well, we're never going to have a perfect society. So let's just kind of slide back on something. Let's not be so hard-nosed about this or so hard-nosed about that. And in certain aspects of how we live and the humanity that we live under, that's certainly a viable and I think a very logical and reasonable argument. But that doesn't mean that we start letting that compassion drive us into emotional decisions that eliminate and take all the practicality and the feasibility of all these things away.
Exactly my point. Exactly.
Okay, so we got somebody like Bernie Sanders up there last night telling us the answer to everything is to take everybody's money and give everything away. Now that's the extreme to this, and I'm sure that Bernie Sanders is in his mind, whatever's left of it, is that he's a very compassionate person that believes that, people deserve this stuff. Well, none of us deserve anything. Within the Christian concept, none of us deserve anything. We're given it.
This is where I disagree with you, that the extreme of what I said equals Bernie Sanders. No, I don't. No, if you look at what's the problem.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to allude to the fact that's what you were saying. Okay. I was using that just to kind of, as you were saying, the utopia that they talk about versus what we say on this side. The reality of the situation is that mankind is fallible and it's never going to be perfect. And yes, there are certain things that we should, but in and of itself, that still is not the responsibility of government.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yep.
As individuals that believe in everything that you just described, we take it upon ourselves. That is the crux of conservatism, is the individual understands who they are. They understand themselves with their imperfections and the imperfections of the world we live in. We understand that we're responsible, that we'll be accountable, and then we base our activity on that. That becomes a collective paradigm that everybody can adhere to, and we're able to do things to take care of the poor and all the other things that we need to do. But to have the government come in and say, we're going to tell you how to do it, and then we're going to implement the programs by which it comes. And that's what I keep hearing from the Republican Party, the people that are out there telling us all the time, we have a better plan for the government to do something. That to me is an oxymoron.
I hear some of them say we have a better plan. I hear many of the ones, generally speaking, the plans that they have are about national security, are, yes, dealing with taxes. I have not heard many dealing with health care, but that doesn't mean it's a government juggernaut. What other plans have we heard? Dealing with immigration. But I have not heard again, this is where the left moderators come up with this problem, that problem, the other problem. How are you going to solve it? Most of the Republicans I've heard immediately say that's not a question for us to do. That's a state's issue. That's a whatever issue.
Yeah,
that's not our. They immediately they take a page from Newt Gingrich 4 years ago, who said, first of all, who turned it right back at them and said, this isn't something that the government does best. Find me one program government does best. Nothing. this needs to be made private. This is a free market thing. This is, all of that. Because yes, but let's look at poverty just for a minute. And this is why our answer is what it is. Let's look at poverty. Yes, Bernie Sanders says government has to do this, that, or the other thing. But it is compassion mixed, combined. It's not mixed with profound ignorance. Because if he took that compassion, which we all have,
it's not compassion.
Yes, we should do something about the poor. But then if he looked for a split instant at what the actual effects of leftist programs has been, it's been devastating.
Yes.
So most of us humans, we want to do something about the poor. But his answer makes it worse. So I think that's what Joe is saying. It's not compassion if what you want to do makes things worse. We have compassion in that every program, not program, I don't want to use that word.
Yeah, every program. You're right.
Mechanism we have of addressing poverty, which is lower taxes, which is incentives to small businesses. All of those things are means to help the individual lift him or herself out of poverty.
And what are you talking about? What are you ultimately talking about, Karen?
Empowerment of the individual.
You're talking about personal responsibility.
Yes, exactly.
And if government is taking that away, you don't have to be personally responsible for crap anymore.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I would even argue from what I said in the beginning, are Bernie's stances born out of this fake compassion, or is it real compassion, or is it just another means of wanting control?
Yeah.
Either way, it boils down to his solutions being destructive, where I see somebody in poverty and I think that's really sad. Too bad this person lost his job because of Obamacare or President Obama or some leftist thing that happened, or else maybe there's a mental illness going on that ought to be addressed, or something else. You look at the underlying reason for the poverty and address that.
Yeah.
You look at why was there a problem with health insurance before Obamacare? Why was there a problem? You look at what the underlying problem is and address that.
And it was because the state governments did not allow for health care to be portable, did not allow for it became state governments made this. State insurance commissions made it. It was government, not at the federal level, at the state level.
Right. Yep.
So it's always a state problem, but the federal government had to come in and you Democrats took it over and you had fun with it. Now where are we at? You're ruining the economy. You ruined the healthcare system. And now you're going, wow, it broke. We need to fix it. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Bernie. You guys broke it and you want us to let you break it some more because it was intended to always be a single-payer government-run solution. Period. That's what they wanted ultimately.
And how compassionate is that? How compassionate is that when it's gotten people to lose their doctor, lose their insurance, lose their health care mid-cancer treatment, lose their jobs, or have their hours cut back? Where's the compassion?
Yeah, I got to interrupt everybody because we're out of time. We're about a minute and a half. Yeah, we got about a minute and a half here. Karen, are you going to come back tomorrow, your regular segment? Because I have something else I want to talk to you about that's right up your alley.
All right, I'm happy to be here tomorrow. Same time, same bad time, same bad channel.
We're going to talk about the media tomorrow. And, and how it's been playing out in this election cycle and cycles past. And I'm putting together the format right now. So anyways, you guys want to check out Karen's site. It's rageagainstthemedia.org. We got to close up for tonight. I'm running over here. We got other shows that come on after us. So we'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock here in the West Coast, 6 o'clock in the East Coast. Thank you so much, dear. Maybe we inspired you. You'll go back now and you'll just write a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm going to go right. You betcha. All right. Great talking with you both.
Okay, guys. God bless. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.